And I look forward to the debate in the Select Committee as well. Thank you.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, it's a pleasure to take a call in this bill and to recognise that it is probably one of the most important economic bills to come before this Parliament in some time. If this Parliament fails to exercise the due diligence and good judgment that is asked of us on this matter, the effects will be felt for generations. Mr Speaker, I'm a former diplomat who's represented the New Zealand dairy industry overseas on many markets and many occasions. And I was also a management consultant tasked with advising on the formation of Fonterra from Kiwi cooperative dairy companies and the New Zealand Dairy Group. I've long taken an interest in this most crucial industry for the New Zealand economy and proud to have been part of the government that set up Fonterra in the first place. Mr Speaker, crucial to New Zealand, Fonterra is. Roughly $1 in every 5 of New Zealand's export earnings comes from this industry and through this cooperative. Many of our trade negotiations have been guided by the interests of this industry, arguably the one and only industry where New Zealand has world leadership and global scale. If we lose progressively over time or dilute our sovereign control over the one industry where we are a world beater and world leader, literally we will undermine the future solvency of our very country, the future sovereignty of our very country. That is how important this is. Mr Speaker, 30% of the global dairy trade comes from or through Fonterra. 1 bucket of milk in 3 traded anywhere in the world. No wonder the US dairy industry, when I was a diplomat in Washington, was terrified of Fonterra. Well, the New Zealand Dairy Board then, they were the big guys on the block. And there are not many industries where we can say that. 15,000 people work for Fonterra. It's a major employer in this country. We want to see it grow. We want to see it strong. We want to see it play well in international markets. But, sir, the issue is whether this bill provides the enduring legislative framework that will lead to that outcome, and here are the reasons why, after much consideration, Labor has determined that on the current drafting it does not. I can assure you, Mr Speaker, that this has been much debated within our caucus, and we have not come lightly to the position of opposing this bill. It has been much consulted around the country, and previously all matters around this industry have been bipartisan consensus between National and Labor. This is a big departure for us. Here is why, sir, we have come to that point. The first issue is the lack of detail in the bill and the uncertainty around crucial governance issues that should not be left to chance or the accumulation of financial market pressures. If the government were in a position, sir, where it could guarantee crucial issues of the sovereignty of farmer control, we may well have a different opinion, and we are open to being satisfied on some of these points through the Select Committee process. Mr Speaker, we are concerned that the bill does not enjoy the support of the Fonterra Shareholders Council nor increasing number of farmer shareholders. And the reason for that is simple. That they were told early on in the TAF consultation process that farmer ownership and control would be 100% guaranteed. But it is not. I will go through the reasons in more detail, but it's crucially around the sale of units which give ownership of the income stream from the milk production to anybody in the world. New York hedge funds, Chinese state-owned enterprises, New Zealand share market interests, institutional banks, you name it, they are powerful pressures and they will only accumulate, and this bill opens the door. We need to be extremely careful about the fine print, and farmers themselves have not been shown the fine print. And increasing numbers, sir, and the Speaker and the Chair is a Southlander himself and a fine one, are asking why not. Asking why not. The sale of units, as I say, is not limited to farmers. It is a different class from wet shares and dry shares. Now, the counter-argument has been raised by members opposite that, OK, the voting rights stay with the shares, they don't attach to the units. That's true. But hello, money talks. Big money talks loudly, and the money goes with the unit. Mr. Speaker, there is a fundamental conflict of interest, it seems to us, which is set up by that division. The owners of the units will want the profit to be taken downstream where it can attach to their interests. The farmer shareholders will want the profit repatriated to the farm gate. They are headed in different directions. They have different interests. The bill and the commentary are not clear as to how that will be arbitrated. So the situation is inherently unstable. Take, for example, Kerry Group in Ireland. It opened the door to a very small proportion of non-farmer shareholdings through A and B class shares, not dissimilar to this arrangement, not exactly the same, but not dissimilar. And what happened? Effective corporate control was lost well before the 50% threshold. Actually, it was lost at around 20-25%. And this bill has a cap of around 20-25%, but crucially, that cap is in the constitution of the company, of the cooperative. It is not in the law. Parliament is giving a blank cheque to future management under future pressure from unknown foreign institutional investors, and we will have no comeback. Mr. Speaker, if we pass this bill in this form with a blank cheque to Wall Street, it must, as a bottom line, to earn Labour's support, and I again stress that on a matter of this fundamental national importance, bipartisan or multi-partisan support around this House is fundamentally the right thing to do. We should argue this out until the majority of us are satisfied. If that cap could be put into law, and if the detail were clearer, we would be somewhere closer to it. And this is not an academic question, sir. I've heard today that next year's payout forecasts are likely to start with a 5. That is, not $7 per kilogram milk solid, around $5 something. And that will put a lot of pressure on some heavily indebted farm balance sheets. And add to that the fact that the tax structure of farming enterprise may change a few years from now, and there may be incentives for farmers to farm more for profit and less for capital gain. And that would be a good thing, in my view, all things being equal, but that will add more pressure on farmers with stretched balance sheets to sell the rights to the downstream production through the units. And this bill provides, through the Constitution, that allows up to 200%, Mr. Speaker, of the individual farm's production to be leveraged out. Well, what a hedge fund's dream that little one is. Over-leveraging the farmer's commitment to 200%, if I am well advised on that matter. Mr. Speaker, we want assurance that this government will not allow the future flotation of this cooperative on the New Zealand stock market or any other stock market. Mr. Speaker, that would be a fundamental damage to the cooperative nature of this enterprise, New Zealand's most important single business. Now, sometimes people might laugh about cooperatives, but where would we be if Fonterra was not a cooperative? And the answer is, it would already be foreign-owned, for goodness sake. It would have been taken over by Kraft or somebody else years ago. The reason it is New Zealand's #1 export earner, not America's or Denmark's or China's or somebody else's, is because it is a farmer-owned cooperative, and anything which dilutes or puts that at risk cannot be waved through by this Parliament on a wing and a prayer that some future manager will stand by the spirit of this legislation, even though they are not bound by the letter. I want my grandchildren to know what it's like to be in a country that is a world first in at least one industry. And this is it. There is no other. Don't let it go. Don't put it at risk. And if you are not sure, and if it is not clear on the details, stop, think, do not pass go, do not sell 200%.
Speaker.
Mike Sabin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll make a call on this very important bill.